So everybody should have a copy of a program. Pages 29 and 30, have a good read. You'll see the wonderful bios of these wonderful panelists up here on stage. But because I've been told we've got to keep it short, succinct and concise, we won't go into bios, we'll just get straight into it. But again, can you put your hands together for this wonderful array of talent up on the stage? I just want to pick up on a number of things that Dame Tariana has raised, actually, to start us off. Tash, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about Whānau Ora at the moment? We've just heard this wonderful speech, a call to action, a call to arms. How are you feeling?
I agree. We do need to have a call to arms linked together as Whānau Ora, as Whānau Ora providers. You know, we're in the middle of a review. And, you know, we were asked, are we worried? How do we feel about that? Actually, I am worried about that. I do worry about a review. I do worry about what impact it will have on my organisation, on my kaiarahi, on our whānau and our community, who we serve every day here in South Auckland. You know, you're in my reality of South Auckland here. You know, we have the highest statistics right across Aotearoa in everything. And we do worry. We're the faces of our community. And, you know, I actually hate letting whānau down. I hate letting rangatahi down. You know, when they come and ask for awhi and you say, actually, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 6 months and 9 months and 12 months. You know, we're going to leave a big hole if we're not here. I agree. It's not about rebranding Whānau Ora as social well-being. We are Whānau Ora. This is us. It belongs to us. And we fought for this.
Hayden, how are you feeling about the review?
Look, I'm probably less concerned about the review around this certainty for the future. I mean, there's been so much that we've done in the last 8 years under Whānau Ora. There's some, you know, we've heard some really compelling stories. We've got some good information out there. It's in the plain light of day. We know that we've changed people's lives. We know that we've been part of changing people's lives in whānau, and that people, we've saved people as well. And so I think on the one side, that's an incredibly compelling story to tell, and it would be a very brave government to push back against that. On the other side, I'm cynical about it. And I'm cynical because it is politically motivated, and it's driven possibly by the notion of rebranding. And so, yeah, I think I've come away about this conference. The first day I was disheartened by the commentary from Wellington. You know, this whole notion of universality being good for us, that was thrown out a long time ago. We know it's not good for us. And the idea of universality and a little bit of targeted funding is kind of like it's $1 each way, or a bob each way. It's vanilla policy, and we've got to stand up against it.
Tureiti, I can see you're nodding there. You agree?
Absolutely. I think just picking up on what Tariana has said, I think we need to be thinking much more bigger than what we are. I think Whānau Ora is a part of our wellness and well-being strategy, but it's not everything. We need to be thinking and believing in ourselves in terms of mana motuhake and in terms of tino rangatiratanga. And unless we start thinking in that way, we're always going to be at the behest of whoever's in Parliament. So one minute we're going this way, next minute we're going that way. And it's true, this review, we knew this review was coming. Those in Parliament already said that it was coming. And the thing that I love about our people, they will tell their own stories. They will say what's going on for them, and they will do what needs to be done. But we mustn't be complacent. There's been a call to arms. I believe that a revolution is required, and we need that right across everything. Iwi, right across the whole of Māoridom. Because if we don't, we will just get more of the same, and we need to take that back.
Rangimarie, your thoughts?
I think there is political fragility which puts Whānau Ora at risk. I think that this is more about political wants and political desires rather than kaupapa. And when I think about the way that the minister talked on the first day, he said, do not get captured by Whānau Ora becoming a crisis management model. That is problematic, tātou mā. We cannot be seen to see Whānau Ora as a crisis management model, and I sure as heck can't see that in the middle of Wellington. You've got a fear that a Prime Minister sees this similar to Family Start. It is not. And so is the review part of that discourse? The answer is yes. I think the other part about this is, as she was talking, I was getting nervous and going back to my university days. Last year there was $80 billion that the government had at its hands, and it put $60.3 billion into education, into health and into social development. Whānau Ora takes less than 0.5% of that total funding to do what you do every day across this motu. It is an injustice. That's what I think she was saying. There is an injustice here, and the review will perpetuate that injustice unless we do something. So I do think it is inappropriate. I do think it should not have happened, and I do think we have an opportunity here to reclaim the types of ways and thinking that our people have always seen, the legacy of our tūpuna. And I don't think there should be any other group in this nation that is doing it except for us. I don't accept that Treasury can take our thinking. I don't accept that education should be doing it. Neither do I accept that social development and justice think that they can apply our ideas and our models in this way. And the review gives us the ability to rename and to state those things. So there is political fragility, and there is some systemic issues that are at bay. And this isn't about the work that you do. This is about the creators, the architects of this wonderful movement. So the...
Cool. And thank you for raising the issue of funding, because, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I heard some comments yesterday. You know, at the end of the day, we receive contracts, we get government funding. We can't speak out. We can't speak against these politicians that you're talking about. Tureiti, you mentioned the idea of a revolution. Do we have the kaha, though, to actually be able to stand up and say these things to the politicians, to those in Parliament?
Well, thank you. Yes, we do. We absolutely must. And that's where we're at that crossroads now, because if we don't look after it, if we don't tiaki it, it will be taken from us and it will be used against us, as it has always been done through the history of our country, of our whakapapa. So here's the thing. It's important for us to be saying everywhere, even when that budget came out this year, how many voices did we hear say that they were disappointed in that budget? I think there were only two, and that was Mere Pika and John Tamahere. Where were the rest of us? And that's the thing that we must stand up. We must be heard, and we must count, because it's no more about handouts for us. It's about taking what is rightfully ours. That's right.
Hayden, are we just talking to ourselves, though? When we think about it, we had two ministers of the Crown here on Monday. We haven't seen anyone else. And I do want to acknowledge the National Party MPs that have been here as well, because they have been here for every day. But are we just talking to ourselves?
Well, we probably are at the moment, but I think, look, I pick up on what Tariana has said and what JT has also been saying, and that is, now is a good time. I think I was a bit bewildered with the announcement of that budget. I was kind of thought, what? Where's that coming from? And so I think it's just taken a little bit of time to take it in and figure out what has to happen next. I think, listening, if I talk about my home area at Taranaki, we've got iwi most predominantly in post-settlement wanting to be part of the Whānau Ora story. I think there are many of our networks that we can mobilise and make that noise and make Wellington hear us, and our local MPs as well.
You talk about budget. Tash and Dame Tariana mentioned it in her speech as well, the wellbeing budget. or the Whānau Ora budget, let's call it that, that we're expecting next year in 2019. What are you expecting from that?
Well, I expect way more than what we got this year. You know, anything's better than nothing, but we need more than that. You know, our whānau deserve the best, and we've been fighting for this everywhere. We only get a small amount of pūtea, but if we think about Māori health game across everything that we do, we should have the majority of the budget, but we don't.
I'm just thinking back to our kaumātua Bill Koa's speech on Monday, and he spoke about matua whāngai and tūtangata, all those wonderful kaupapa Māori that we've seen throughout many, many years, and the whakapapa, I suppose, of Whānau Ora. Whānau Ora, as we know it today, is it at risk of being railroaded, if you like those other kaupapa have in previous years?
Well, we have when we hear a minister who really didn't give us any confirmation of anything. You know, I wasn't convinced by Penny's kōrero on Monday. You know, he didn't give me he didn't make me feel inspired about Whānau Ora and where we're going. But actually, everybody in this room does. You know, when you sit here and hear the kōrero about whānau eke panuku, that's everything that who we are. And we actually have to get up, stand up, and actually make a bigger stand about what we want. And you're right, when the budget came out and we got nothing, you think, far out. You know, what are we doing? Are we doing things right? What more do we need to do? And I think here, you know, if we think about some of the workshops that have been happening over the last, you know, from yesterday, you know, walk the talk. We actually have to get up and walk the talk. And we're not doing enough of that in this room. You know, we need to do more.
Rangimarie, let's be fair, you know, and I don't want to be accused of being a Māori Party supporter or anything, but, you know, this government, it's a new government. Do we need to be giving them the time to actually be, you know, to feel their way through, or no?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. We help them.
They've had plenty of time.
Because, you know, how many reviews? Well, I think there's about 140 odd reviews going on at the moment. But so you don't think that they need some time to come up to, you know, to speed with things?
Hey, I hope there's not filming.
We're going
Guess
live
what?
to the world.
Labour and National were not created last month, right? They have been the predominant political forces in our country's history for hundreds of years. They do not need time. They do not. They have philosophies, principles and policies that are older than me. And that's only 21. No, I don't think so. I think what we need to do here is, you know, I spoke to APEC the other day, and one of the things that we've got like over 27 ministers, we've got over 27 MPs, and we've got 13 ministers in government.
That's right.
You know, and whether or not they are connected to their whakapapa or not, he Māori tō rātou, they've got to do some work. And the fact that we've got hundreds of us here and we advocate on behalf of hundreds and thousands of people does not make sense that we can say, you've got to have a bit more time. I think what we have to do is put these political agendas aside and start doing some work. This morning I read in a paper, 1 in 3 are struggling to pay their power. 10% of their income every month is spent trying to put the heater on. The nanny is cooking dinner late at night so that she can warm the house up later at night when the chill starts to set. That's an issue. And the problem I have is that everybody in this room is going to try and solve that. And with less than 0.5% of a total income of $80 billion, of which Māori institutions, Māori trusts and corporations, and iwi contribute a significant amount of that money to that pot, we can't accept that. And I think sometimes we have to, I never ever see Whānau Ora as being just about the contract. I think as a chief executive of an iwi that has been in post-settlement, we also have a responsibility to be able to add value to Whānau Ora. It should not be seen as the be-all and end-all. And I think therein lies the opportunity. We've got to be able to take our own destiny into our own hands. And the longer we worry about that, about them, I think we're at risk. But as the fire said, there is there is institutional racism, and there has to be equity across this nation, and there is not at this point, I think.
Thinking about the future, Tureiti, we heard from the Minister on Monday talking about Whānau Ora being delivered and rolled out by mainstream government agencies. How do you feel about that?
Well, we have that same situation at the Waikato DHB, who are considering Whānau Ora commissioning. And my issue with that is that it becomes a service. Because Whānau Ora has never been about a service. It's never been about a small focus here and a small focus there. It's always been about lifting our people out of poverty, lifting our people out of where they are right now, which is at the bottom of the heap. That's what this has always been about. And to do that, we need to have the resources moved across from those government departments into us, so we can actually be the designers and the movers and the shakers of our own destinies. It cannot be the same as it is today, and that is why we have also the Y2757 claim, which is the health claim. It is about moving those funds, no more being at the beck and call of whomever. We need to be able to run our own lives in our own way and do that without barriers here, barriers there. You know, you dance this way, I always call it the wātusi. You go this way to the left and then you go that way to the right. It's time. And now is the time to do that, instead of just moving money around in the ministries that are already there. And which is what's happening. 60% of our babies, 60% are in oranga tamariki. 60% of our babies. Who's looking after those babies? It's not us. That's where they should be. They should be under our care.
What does the future look like, Hayden, in your view? Because will we be back on the stage in 2 years talking about the same thing, singing the same song?
Can I bridge into a bit of that question?
And then you'll answer my question.
And then I'll come back to the question. Sorry, I was sounding like a politician, but I think, for me, I think there's one fundamental difference that is represented in this room, and that's our connectedness to our communities and our whānau. And I'm sick and tired of hearing people in the system saying, we can do what you can do.
Yeah,
that's fundamentally just flawed. It's a flawed logic, and I don't even get it. So I think the thing for me is that we're not talking about playing at the margins. You know, this call for arms is not to play at the margins. We want systemic change. We want to see a significant shift, and I think that's the key outcome that I'd be really looking for. You know, no token effort on the edge of the budget. We sit inside the system. But and we are in a wider system. But we're also at the edge where we can play and innovate and do things and work with whānau. And I think those are the things that we can do. And that would be the impact of that shift in resourcing into our area would be significant. You know, the value that would come from that. And I think that's something we've got to really say loud and clear and give it to this government that's in a fragile state of getting its feet under the table.
Tash, what happens after this conference? What's the next step? We heard from Dame Tariana talking about the Springbok Days, the flares and the flower bombs. We've heard Tureiti espousing or advocating for a revolution. What is the next step after this conference? What's your message to the hui?
Well, what I'd want to see is that those of us that are in leadership actually spend some time to actually strategise and plan what it is, because actually if we think about the forum we're in, we actually don't spend time together. You know, we actually need some dedicated, committed time to get together and strategise in our leadership. And actually say, this is where we're going and this is what we want to do. Then we go back and infiltrate in our own regions. You know, we do need change, but we need some time. We actually need to, not time, we actually just need to get together. You know, we don't have time. You know, there's actually no time for failure. There's no time for us to drop the ball. And I guess my message would be too, for those of our kaiarahi and kaimahi that are here, you know, continue to drive, continue to support our whānau on the ground, because it's because of what you do out there, helps us in the leadership role drive and push. We need you to continue to do that. It's not time to drop the ball. Keep going and keep striving. I tell my kaiarahi that all the time. You know, you got to keep going. You're looked at more than any other kaimahi and any other organisation. And actually, we've come too far and we've built such strong kaimahi in our regions. We need to continue to grow that. One of my kaimahi said to me, "Mā te rangatahi mo te rangatahi tash." You know, we need more of that. Get more of our rangatahi out there in kaiarahi roles, infiltrating out in the front line. I want to see more of that. You know, I'm still on the ground with kaimahi, but I also want to see some leadership in our leadership space to strategize and plan where are we going to, what are we doing.
Hayden, your final message to the hui?
There's a lot of energy in this room, and I think we've all reached a point of frustration, and I think we've stood back, we've had a look at what's happened, and I think none of us are happy about it. I think I agree with Tash that it's an opportunity for us as leaders to stand up and to really show a united front, very much.
Tureiti, your final words?
Māori mana motuhake. That's what we need to strive for. That's what needs to happen in terms of us going forward. Not just for those of us in the room, but for everyone in our communities. Because if we don't start moving on this and pulling this out and demanding it and expecting it, we will always get the same. And we've seen that over consecutive governments right across time. It's time, and it's our time, and I think if we mobilise it, we start collectivising, we start protesting, we start that movement, I believe we will bring about change that is timely in this country.
E Rangimarie, I'll give you the last
Yeah.
word. So hopefully it's great.
It will be.
Geez, it's not even 9. Look, one of the things that I heard a lot when I was at the Wānanga was what is good for Māori is good for the world. And when I think about the future of Whānau Ora, I have raised my 4 children on the back of an amazing movement, which was the Kohanga Reo. And it seems to me that the Kohanga Reo has had an ability to transcend Te Ao Māori and be able to go global, because it makes sense for Indigenous peoples and it makes sense for people who are trying to repatriate their tino rangatiratanga in their place in the world. To me, Whānau Ora has the same ability. It is a social movement that enables us to be able to not only do this here at home, but be able to take that across the world. I think the moment we can get into that space, we will truly start to be able to really engender Māori thinking, Māori ideas and Māori worldviews and how we do things. So I think that, while I don't want to get caught up in the politics of the day, that's got to be the future of Whānau Ora, because the moment we start thinking about this as being a program or a source or a contract, we have failed ourselves. And I think we have also failed the Koea's call about our tupuna aspirations. This is the social movement for our time. It's exciting, it's aspirational, it's beautiful, and it deserves to be shared with Indigenous peoples across the world.
Lovely.
Tātou mā, please put your hands together for our panel.
That was quick.